Welcome back to another episode of the Property Management Show, where we deep dive into the world of property management, marketing, and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Maddie Tepman from Fourandhalf Marketing Agency. Fourandhalf helps property managers like you get more owner leads through marketing. Whether you need help with your website, SEO, online reputation, paid advertising, email marketing, social media, video and blog content, basically everything you need to attract more owner leads. Visit fourandhalf.com to learn more. That's fourandhalf.com. Today, we are diving into a topic that we have been getting more and more questions about, and that is Google Ads. Property managers have been reaching out to us, inquiring about the service, and we noticed that there are a lot of misconceptions about what it is, how it works, what to expect. So, to settle the record, we are joined today by our very own Google Ads expert, Maddie Lushington. Welcome to the show, Maddie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So it's your first time on the show. I'm so excited to show the face to everyone of the person running our ads department. And so the people get to know you, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Maddie. I have been with Fourandhalf for about 5.5 years. I've been running ads nearly the whole time. I also do a lot of our internal marketing now. So if you've ever watched any of our YouTube videos, you might have seen me there. I live in Washington and I love it here.
Hopefully we get more of you on the show. And so let's kind of talk about the elephant in the room. What is, in your experience, the biggest misconception that property managers have about just like running ads in general?
Yeah, I feel like Google Ads can be really hard for people to conceptualize if you've never seen it in action, if you don't know anything about the auction. And one thing I see a lot is people having these notions about how many leads they're going to generate, making up their own numbers or how much it's going to cost per month. And they have these numbers in mind. And that's not something that we can just tell Google. It's very limited by your market and by your budget. So if there aren't 100 leads per month in your market, we can't generate 100 leads per month with your campaign. Google Ads is also pretty expensive. It's one of the more expensive avenues out there, but that doesn't mean that it isn't efficient or effective. You just have to kind of keep those parameters in mind when you're setting your expectations.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about this expectation of like how many leads to get even before starting, because I sometimes go to conferences and I sit at tables during lunch or breaks and I hear property managers kind of comparing notes about
Mhm.
their experience in their market. And they like to share like, oh, I got X number of leads just last month from Facebook ads or
Yeah.
Google ads or from direct mail. And then you'd always find someone else on the table who's like, well, I've tried direct mail so many different ways. It just never works for me.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I've tried Google ads. It just like never works for me. And it's not because someone's lying. Just like you said, it depends on the market. It depends
Mhm.
on the budget. If you're not able to compare apples to apples,
Mhm.
then you're just basically sharing anecdotes, right? Like
Yeah.
just because someone has success in Florida doesn't mean for like, for like 6 months of running ads doesn't mean you'll find the exact same success in a rural community in, let's say, like Arkansas, for example,
Yeah,
right?
and there are many different markers of success. I
Mm.
think the shiny thing is the number of leads generated, but there's also the cost, and different parameters that make up success. It's not just as simple as I generated 5 leads and you generated 2.
Mm. And so kind of to piggyback on that, right? So there are many markers of success. Like, can you share a little bit about what are some of the markers of success that maybe aren't as obvious?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of the big one is number of leads and then cost per lead, but we also look at impressions. That's gonna be your brand awareness. Even if you're paying for actual leads, awareness and impressions, that's great. Number of clicks. One of the main things that we look for, I'll probably talk about this later, but one of the markers of success for us is how many clicks per day is your campaign getting? Because that can be a real indicator of how many owner leads you're going to get. That's one of the things that we base our budgets off of.
Yeah. I think that's a really important note, right? Like you mentioned, how many clicks are you getting? How many owner leads are you getting?
Mhm.
And can you talk through um, like the different kinds of clicks that a typical ad campaign would get? Like, because not every click is created equal.
Mhm.
And so I think that's another misconception. Do you mind sharing a bit more about that to our audience?
Yeah. So what comes to mind there is with our campaigns, we have two very prevalent audiences. We have the owners and we have the tenants. And we are very owner focused, but we will get a lot of tenant leads or vendor leads. And we will do everything we can to minimize those. But sometimes, in order to generate those owner clicks, we do get those other types of clicks that we don't necessarily want to keep those keywords that are generating the owner clicks. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, yeah. If you're a property management business owner and you've tried running your own ads,
Hmm.
it may seem easy, right? Because Google now has all these new like AI tools that make it
Yeah.
seem like, hey, we'll do all the work for you. If you start running our own ads, it may be easy to say like, oh, I'm getting like 20 clicks a
Yeah.
day and think I'm doing much better than my competition who says they get 5 clicks a day. But
Yeah.
I feel like it was important to kind of identify, like, well, what kinds of clicks are you getting?
Mhm.
You may think that a click is the end goal, whereas if we look at the big picture, it actually has to be like, oh, we want an owner, actually not a
Yeah.
tenant, not a vendor. And so, what do you think property managers misunderstand most about automation and AI, like
Mhm.
as it relates to like Google Ads?
Yeah. So it has a lot to do with the generating of tenant leads. I think a lot of people might think that there's a button that we can click that says we only want owner leads or do not target tenants. And I really, really wish it was that simple. But what we can control the keywords that we put in, which is it's what we think people will be searching in Google. So those are the keywords. We can input the copy, we can do the landing pages, the assets for the campaign, but there's no magic button.
Yeah.
And with our industry, with our audiences, tenants and owners actually search very similarly. It can be a little surprising if you're not like looking at the keywords. It doesn't quite make sense unless you're actually looking at the words. But they do search similarly, and so going back to how Google search works, Google will actually target whoever they think is most likely to click and convert because that's their goal, right? But the AI isn't nuanced enough to be able to know the difference necessarily between the owner that we want and the tenant that we don't necessarily want. So it can be really tricky to teach Google the nuance of our campaign and our audience. And I think it is really important when you're looking at clicks to make sure that you are generating a good amount of owner leads still at the end of the day. Not every click is going to be an owner, and that's okay. That's just part of how it works. Or not every click is going to be a conversion, but you do want to make sure that you are generating something from those clicks.
And I do want to caveat to our listeners. So, Four and Half is a property management marketing company focused on getting you owner leads. So that's why we're talking about ads that are targeted to
Yeah.
owner leads. So
Yeah.
obviously, right, like it depends on what your needs are. So there are some businesses that may want to run ads to attract maybe higher quality, residents for their luxury listings.
Yeah.
Like that's totally fine to get tenant leads if that is your intent.
Yeah.
But I just want to caveat, like, why are
No,
we
good
making
point.
it seem like tenant leads are not good? Like, well, we assume because most of our clients come to us when they want owner leads that they want owner leads. And
Right.
so that's why we're like, hey, we try to, Maddie tries
Yeah.
to create campaigns that drive owner leads for your business. So just wanted to get that out
Yeah.
of the way. Um, and then I was curious to know let's say you're launching like a brand new campaign tomorrow, brand new property management company. What do you not do? I think like there's so many different ways to do things, but what are like the cardinal sins of ads that you should absolutely stay away from?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind is Google Ads is not a set it and forget it platform. So do not set up a Google Ads campaign and then never look at it again. It's really something where you need to be going in and you need to be maintaining the campaign. Every couple weeks, every month, we are going in, We are doing huge sweeps of all of our campaigns, and then weekly we're going in and we're doing the little nitty-gritty, and it's really important to keep up on that maintenance. It's really important to keep those touch points on the campaigns. You want to be looking at the keywords, you want to be looking at the search terms, you want to be A/B testing the copy and the landing page. And if you're not doing that, then maybe your campaign will generate a lead every once in a while, but it's really not going to be as efficient or effective as it would be if you're going in and making those regular updates. We had a really weird AI mishap where it was adding Latin to our campaigns. I'm not sure where it was getting the Latin from, and it was really, really confusing trying to figure out what was happening and why that was, because we definitely didn't add that. But yeah, AI can be really funny and tricky sometimes. You have to really be watching it. It makes you feel like you can set it and forget it. It makes you feel like you don't have to go in and check up on it. But it's almost more important now that the AI tools are manipulating things and adding things and changing things.
Yeah, it's so funny because when you told me about that, it was because you were doing your regular campaign reviews and you
Hmm.
just noticed like, why is there, I think it was like lorem ipsum, right? It's like
Yeah.
basically web placeholder text that
Yeah.
the Google Ads AI tools were just like randomly adding to the
Yeah.
list of like copy for the ads, and you kept us trying to turn it off and you're like, where's this coming from? And I was like, man, like imagine if you didn't have scheduled reviews for
Hmm.
campaigns, like how long would those, errors have been affecting the campaign, right?
Yeah.
And Google just gets the money. They're like,
Right.
well, sorry, like we have disclaimers there that like AI can hallucinate,
Yeah.
but you agreed to the terms and conditions.
Right. Yeah, and I tried to reach out because I was like, this cannot keep happening. You have to stop this. And I did not get a satisfying answer. So now we just have to be diligent and babysit those AI tools.
Yeah. And so, do you mind walking us through kind of how different it is now with the AI tools versus before? Because you've been running ads for property management companies for so long. And I feel like all the AI tools for all the companies were just like rushed, to production
Hmm.
because that's like the buzzword. And so I remember you talking anecdotally internally about how different it is. And so for people who maybe looked at ads like 5 years ago and then think like, oh, it can only be better because it's all AI
Yeah.
powered now, like mind just giving your personal and professional opinion.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a time and a place for these AI tools, but like I said, they really need to be babysat. It's really not at a place where it's nuanced enough, especially for us with our audiences that search so similarly and are so similar. It's really just not at a place where I would be comfortable putting any like significant amount of my budget into these campaigns. We have a lot of industries that are similar, like real estate, or
Mhm.
that would feel similar but are completely irrelevant. So, for example, I had the keyword vacation property management in one of my campaigns. Property management, that's related. The AI tools started suggesting vacation things to do, like keywords. Like that was its suggestion, was like trip planning keywords. And that's not relevant at all to us or to generating owner leads or even tenant leads. So just, it's really easy to think that you can just click the button to make those, to make it update your campaign, but it's really not that simple. It's really not that easy. And I think it's nice for generating ideas. I feel like with ChatGPT and content, there's a lot of this talk about like, yeah, use it to generate ideas. And I think it's very similar in Google Ads. They generate a list of keywords that you can search, that you can go through, and maybe they come up with two that are relevant to you, and that's valuable. But the other 30 that are in that list are just not relevant. And
So
you
you
need
have to
to,
work harder
yeah,
to sift through their
yeah.
suggestions and weed out. I feel like one important thing to take note is Google has now shifted from purely keywords to intent.
Hmm.
And like that's true for Google search. If you haven't watched our Google Updates blog, you should. So Google's trying to focus on intent versus just plain keywords. But intent is a very nuanced thing,
Yeah.
which robots find it hard to master, right? And so when you widely implement an AI tool to something like Google Ads, where you win if you catch the intent, like you see the problem here, right? if you're heavily reliant on this AI that doesn't understand nuance, and they're trying to get it to help you figure out the intent of your target audience, it already gets messy. And then on top of that, the industry we're in, property management, is a very nuanced industry, right? Because you have trying to target owners, property owners, but at the same time, property management, the web thinks of property management in terms of like the tenant facing, right? So if you go to ChatGPT and you ask about property management, most of the stuff you see is tenant. So it gives you an idea of how the neural network is of these AI tools, right? They're trained on what's publicly available. And so it's like, that's kind of the context. So another thing too is like, if you are a property management company, you want to target investors. I know, like, how easy is it to say target investors, invest in my city, right? But you have a lot of stories about that, Maddie.
Yeah, I actually really have trouble with investor keywords. There's a lot of spam, and then you'll put investment property management and banking stuff will come up, or finance stuff will come up. It's just not as simple as simply putting in investor property management as a keyword.
Yeah. I think it's like people ruin things for other people. Scammers have ruined the word invest.
Yeah.
You put invest and it's like Bitcoin,
Yeah.
get rich quick,
Yeah.
So like spam, right? So I feel like I guess that's where the human element is now more critical, because the nuance is more important now, and nuance is something that AI cannot yet really master. And so kind of like to keep things moving. So you mentioned that one of the triggers or one of the factors to identify success in Google Ads is like, so, like clicks, leads, but also like, there's math behind it too, right? So can you walk us through like the math? So, I've literally heard property managers say like, if I throw $500 at ads, like I should be able to get a door or two. Like,
Yeah.
how real is that?
Yeah, it's true and false at the same time. I understand where that thought comes from, and I wish it was literally as simple as that. But Google can be very fussy about small budgets. And so it can be really tricky to get a small budget to be super effective. I mean, it depends on so many factors: the location, the market, what exactly leads you're looking for. But so what I try to focus on is a number of clicks per day. So I want my campaigns to be able to show up for 5 to 10 clicks per day. And setting that as a baseline is important because it is sort of a numbers game. You need to be able to show up for the impressions all day. You need to be able to show up for those clicks that happen to be owners so that you can generate those leads. And if you stop showing up halfway through the day, you might miss out on a lead at the end of the day. We'll use $500 per month as the example. And I won't go too far into the weeds about the auction and how the budgets work, but high level overview, it's a daily budget for the search campaigns that we do, daily budget. So at $500 per day, your daily budget would be give or take $16.50 a day. And so at that daily budget, your cost per click would need to be on average about $3 a day. Our average cost per click across all campaigns, across all locations, is about $5.50. So it's just very unlikely that your location would be able to support $3 per click on average. So your campaign is just going to stop showing up because you're spending your daily budget in the morning, and then you don't get to show up for the rest of the day. So even though $500 per month is technically over our average cost per lead, which is about $300 on average, if you stop showing up halfway through the day, you're missing out on those owner leads. So we do have some campaigns at that budget level that are successful and they generate a lead or two a month, and that's great, but it's so market dependent. I don't think that you can just count on being able to throw $500 at Google Ads and showing up. I don't know our exact average budget, but I would guess it's around $1,000 a month is more reasonable an average than 500. And at that budget, that's where you can sort of start to Not guarantee, but expect
Mm-hmm.
2 to 5 or so leads a month, depending on so many different factors, what exactly you're targeting, the competition. Competition is so much more important in Google Ads than I think people realize.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get these effective cost per leads. You just need to spend more per month. That's really
Mm-hmm.
what it comes down to, unfortunately. So when I'm setting a budget, I really focus on that daily click. I want to be showing up for a minimum of 5 to 10 clicks per day. I don't focus so much on the cost per lead. That'll come as long as we're hitting that average cost or that average clicks per day.
As you were talking, I just thought about some anecdotal kind of experiences,
Mhm.
like talking to clients who are like frustrated with ads.
Yeah.
And when they hear numbers like, this is the average cost per lead,
Mhm.
this is the average number of leads to expect,
Mhm.
they hit 1 month where they didn't
Yeah.
hit that number and they're like, everything's going wrong.
Yeah.
But averages are averages. Like,
Mhm.
if you look at a 1 year campaign, you would get months where you have a lot more leads or
Yeah.
you're popping, and then
Yeah.
leads where everything is quiet.
Yeah.
And in an industry like property management, like, you know, this, the industry is very cyclical. You're very busy in the summers, and then when fall comes, things start slowing down. And then when holidays come, it's kind of dead because guess what? People are busy with their lives, the holidays. And so it really is about thinking of things like long term, kind of big picture type of
Mhm.
thing, right? So if you're obsessing about like your leads per week, your leads per month, which I get it. If you're like a BDM, like you are
Yeah.
being tracked that way, but that's not kind of a fair way to look at an ad campaign by any measure because, like you said, so many factors. The bidding is per day. So there could be a day where no one else is wanting to show ads
Mhm.
and your ad's the only one showing. Guess what? You can get all the clicks
Right.
for the minimum budget. But if the competition that day is really fierce, even if you have a high daily budget, it might get used up in just one click,
Mhm.
right? So you never know. So it's all about like the big picture. I feel like
Totally.
people may not realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. Often when we're talking to clients after a bad month, we use that year to date number. If the year to date number is still good, if we're still right around $300 per lead, one bad month is okay. And I know it hurts, but as long as we're still doing well for the year, if we're still doing well on average, I still think it's worthwhile for the campaign to be running.
Yeah, and another point that I just thought of is like with marketing, it's always the right place. Like you have to be at the
Mhm.
right place in the right time, right? So even if an owner saw your ad, they may not feel like they're in that place to make a decision right now.
Yeah.
And so that may not lead them to convert. Or they may convert on the landing page, like leave their contact information, but choose not to pursue like a discussion with you. Maybe they change their
Mhm.
mind, they get distracted. And so I feel like it's so easy to slap on a label of like junk leads. Like, oh, I
Right.
got a lot of junk leads. Like if they're literally spam, like
Right.
of course those is junk. But if it's like it's junk lead because they didn't sign up with me, like it's like a courting process. Like
Mhm.
if seeing the ad was the first time they discovered your company, like there's not enough trust for them to commit. So you kind of like need to work on that relationship to
Yeah.
deepen it, earn their trust. Because let's like we talked about intent earlier, right? When like ads are typically targeting people who are very close to making a decision,
Mhm.
right? They're not people who are still like, should I manage my property, keep managing my property, or should I hire a property manager? No, ads are for people who are like, I want to hire a property manager. I just like am still on the fence for some reason. And
Mhm.
ads are there to be like, hey, choose me, choose me. And so it's like, it's harder because everyone is like, well, choose me,
Yeah.
right? So I just wanted to, again, talk about there's a lot of nuance
There's
in
a ton of
this.
nuance. I mean, I think one of the great things about ads, sort of to your point, is that it's brand awareness. So this is the first time that they're seeing you and maybe they don't sign up, but they still now know about you. You still showed up at the top of the page and they know that you exist now. And I think that ads are really well paired with a lead nurturing campaign,
Mhm.
following up with those leads that didn't convert.
Oh, and reputation. I feel like
Mhm.
that's often not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit more like the role of reputation in all this?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to ads, we think of it as a very linear process of people seeing your ad, clicking on it, filling out your form. But in this day and age, how often does that really happen, right? You see the ad, you look at the landing page, you read through the information, then you go Google the company and you look at their reputation. And a lot of people will reverse a purchase decision. We just did a video about this based off of negative reviews. And so it's really important to have a really holistic point of view when it comes to marketing and making sure that all of those I's are, dotted and T's are crossed, and that you're giving a really well-rounded picture, a good, well-rounded picture of who you are and what you can provide to the lead.
Yeah, definitely. Looking ahead, there have been so many changes in the world of like
Mhm.
ads, right? What's one thing you believe about the future of ads that most people in property management may not be ready for or may not even be aware of that could happen?
Yeah. I have probably brought this up so many times already. I sound like a broken record, but Google Ads is expensive. Competition drives up the cost per click. And I don't want to discourage people from doing Google Ads. I just think it's really important to have a realistic idea of how much it's going to cost going into it. Because I don't want you to spend $500 a month and waste that $500 a month not generating any leads. I think it's much better if you go in and you spend a larger amount if you have it. To be able to actually have an effective ads campaign. And I've seen keywords that are 200, or sorry, not 200, goodness, 20,
Okay.
20, $30 for a single click though. But I mean, that's still really expensive for a single
Yeah.
click, right? And maybe those keywords are an easy, we just delete them from the campaign and that's easy to just do that because they're so expensive. But depending on your market, the legitimate cost of a click could be $8 to $12 for some keywords. It's an average of all the keywords in your campaign. Some keywords are more expensive, some are less, but the legitimate cost could be $10 for one click on some of your keywords. And if that is a legitimate keyword, if your budget can't support it, we could take it out. But if it's generating owner leads, if we take that keyword out, then you're missing out on owner leads. And so that's just one of the strategic lenses that we come, sifting through the campaign when we do our reviews. And I think it's really important when you're doing your maintenance to have that mindset of the cost benefit analysis of the keywords and which keywords do we take away to make sure that we can get those clicks, but which keywords do we keep that are more expensive, that are generating the more owner leads. And so yeah, I think if you have the right strategy in place, you have the right audience, you have an appropriate budget, you're A/B testing regularly, you're going and you're doing that maintenance, Google Ads is so effective. I don't want to scare anyone away from doing Google Ads. If you have the budget, it is effective. But if you're not doing those things, it is going to feel like you're wasting money.
Yeah, well said. And again, like if this is overwhelming to you, if you feel like adding ads to your marketing portfolio could benefit you, but you're not sure where to start, like that's why companies like Fourandhalf Marketing Agency exist. We have
Mhm.
people like Maddie who do this day in, day out
Yeah.
and literally take care of all that mental load
Mhm.
instead of you. So you can focus on your business. Yeah, thank you so much for the time, Maddie.
Thanks for having me.
Sharing your expertise and going through kind of like the changes that we're seeing with Google Ads.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
That's all we have for today's episode of the Property Management Show, brought to you by Fourandhalf Marketing Agency. I hope that interview gave you some more clarity around Google Ads, how it works, and how it fits into your overall marketing strategy. Now, if you want to learn more about how Fourandhalf can help property management companies like yours get more owner leads through the help of Google Ads, websites, SEO, online reputation, email, and content marketing, go to fourandhalf.com. That's FOURANDHALF.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share with your colleagues and friends, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.